The crew are going to have to pluck the woman from a moving yacht in rough seas.
There's a lot of things can go wrong.
The guy's been abandoned by his mates after trespassing on the island.
Here we go.
The crew of Northland's emergency helicopter have just received a call to rescue a woman who's had an accident on a boat that's out to sea off the Bay of Islands.
Okay, good start. Brief launch checks. Okay, horsepower on, helicopter on, switch powers on. Switching out.
The safety checks are essential because the crew are going to have to pluck the woman from a moving yacht in rough seas. And because the Swedish couple on the boat have limited English, nobody's exactly sure how difficult that will be.
Try the hook. Hook inside, watch power off, helicopter unarmed. Closing doors, roger. Doors closed.
We didn't know exactly what it was, other than a female had taken a fall, and we weren't sure how badly injured she was at that point in time. Given that, we geared up the helicopter for the worst case scenario.
Emirates Helmet 1's departed Whangarei base, tracking for a winch job on the yacht Olimar, approximately 65 nautical miles to the northeast of Opua. We have 4 POD, we think. ETA on scene is 1745, 1745.
Roger, heavy main confirming is 65 miles northeast of Opua.
The Northland emergency helicopter has found the Swedish yacht with an injured woman on board. And now it's a question of getting everything into position to winch Wally past the mast and rigging.
One of the things that we do is get the yacht to turn into a heading into the wind. That means it rides well on the water. It also gives the helicopter some airspeed under its rotor to keep it safe and keep it flying comfortably. The winch operator set up a high line, which means it's a weighted line that is just lowered out of the aircraft. The crew member on the boat takes a hold of the high line, and that's then used to guide the winchman onto the deck. That was quite difficult in the high winds. We had to have several passes at that to get that line down.
You clear for the door? Clear door.
There's a lot of things can go wrong, and the high-risk time is as you exit the aircraft. The hook is brought into the cabin, it's attached to me.
There you go to the door.
I'm unlatched off the aircraft. I swing out, hang on the end of the hook.
Clear of the door. Clear the winch. Clear the winch. Winching out. Below the door.
There's a lot of things can go wrong, and the high-risk time is as you exit the aircraft. I look down and we're about 100 feet above the water. The water's quite rough, and there's a line from me down to the gentleman on the back of the yacht. And it's, a little bit of an adrenaline rush. There's no question about that. Landing on the deck was somewhat of a challenge. The yacht was bouncing up and down, moving around a reasonable amount. The gentleman on the other end of the high line had to haul me in quite hard to get me up over the railing on the side. Coming from swinging on the end of the rope to standing on a moving yacht deck can be quite challenging. Her injuries weren't that significant. She had some potential internal injuries. She was quite mobile, and her vital signs were stable at that point in time. Based on that assessment, I decided that we would take her off in what we call a nappy.
Pilot. Watch out. Switching out. Stop watch.
To get safely off the deck of a yacht in rough seas like that, you actually need to be plucked up, lifted over the edge of the side railings, and you need to swing immediately away from the vessel in order to get clear of any hazards that might be a risk of getting tangled in.
Winch to operator. Winch operator. Hold your position. Okay, and retrieving. Winch up. Winching in.
So you swing out, you actually do swing reasonably wide. The high line's still attached, that stops you from swinging too far. You swing to 4 or 5 metres away from the boat and just a couple of metres above the water. We we spun a reasonable amount coming up, and I do recall that the aircraft appeared to be going around quite a bit.
Coming to the aircraft.
The patient looked quite stressed at that point in time, and I think was quite relieved when we got to the aircraft and we could stop the spin.
At the door, safety's on. Hollywood 1. Departing scene with 5 POB. ETA Whanganui Base Hospital 1840, 1840, thanks.
Okay, Hollywood 1 inbound to Northland Base Hospital 5 POB and ETA 1840.
After receiving treatment for injuries to her kidneys at Whangarei Hospital, the woman and her partner decided to abandon their 15-year round-the-world odyssey and return to Sweden.
You're not actually allowed to land on the islands at all, but we've just seen a person standing on the shore over here, so we're just going to go and have a look. Yeah. How did you get on here? Because you're not actually allowed to land on here at all, eh? You're not allowed to come ashore at all. That's why it says no landing over on the sign just up there.
The guy's been abandoned by his mates after he felt seasick, but he's landed right in front of a no landing sign, and he's going to have to get off.
Okay, you want to jump on there and just run around the side there?
It's a bit rougher out the other side than here.
Yeah, it is. It's nicer on this side, and they are really nice islands, but unfortunately, can't land on them.
It doesn't take long to find his mates, who were expecting an inspection rather than a delivery.
Are you missing something?
I'll go around the other side.
We have to take all those things back.
Yeah, whether you like it or not. Yeah, unfortunately, you're not supposed to be on the island, eh?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, big no-no. He can swim, or he can stew, or you can take him back.
We'll take it back because, quite frankly, this is pretty hopeless out here.
No good, eh?
But almost as soon as they leave this group behind, the Fisheries Patrol comes across more people trespassing on the island. And this time the boat is casually parked in front of a big no landing sign.
Yep, we're just going to pull up to them. They're anchored right in front of the no landing sign. I mean, I can read it from here. Are these guys off your boat?
Yeah.
You know what the sign says?
The little guy's quite seasick. Just get some rocks under it.
Okay, well, they've got to get off straight away. You're not allowed, no one's allowed to land on these islands, eh? They have to have real strict quarantine processes so you can get on here.
Sure.
So I'll ask you to collect them, and in the meantime, I'll just grab your details because I'm going to have to pass it on to Doc. Okay, because they take this sort of stuff quite seriously. So you did see the sign?
Yeah.
The guy seems unconcerned, but eventually he's persuaded that he should really do something about getting out of there.
I'll get you to grab them in off the rocks or get them to come around. Do you want us to go over and tell them to come over to the beach?
Swim back.
Okay.
It was the last action of the day and time to head back to the harbour. The father and the other man fisheries found on the island were prosecuted by the Department of Conservation, and each was fined $250. Doc also sent a warning letter to the skipper of the boat that dropped the man on the island.